Good morning. Another beautiful day in God's kingdom. How have you been? Anyhow, we're going to go on a little trip for the next few days, the next few chats, as we take a look at something that I found interesting and just kind of popped up and stuck in my head and stuck in my mind, as we did our prayers this morning. This might be something that I'll be introducing on this channel, and this is an early morning prayer that we do on Monday mornings. Every Monday morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. If you're able to wake up at that time and stay awake till 6, we'll be praying. And we will always do that. So, like I said, I might be introducing it to the channel, but let's go on into what we have today. So, as we prayed, we like to pray from the scriptures. And somehow I was led to the book of Genesis and Genesis chapter 18. And Genesis chapter 18 has two very significant things in there, two very significant stories in there that we usually look at. But as I took a look at the second half of Genesis chapter 18, there was something that struck me. And here you have Abraham having a conversation with God. He's discussing with God. God tells him, I'm going to destroy Sodom, because I've heard that this place is so wicked and so on and so forth. And Abraham begins to talk to God and he begins to intercede and say, what about if you found 50 righteous people there? Would you destroy the city for that purpose, for that reason? And he says, oh no, I won't destroy it. God says, I won't destroy it if I find 50 righteous people there. And then Solomon begins to Abraham, where did Solomon come from? Anyway, Abraham begins to bargain with God and he begins to, intercede until he gets to the number 10. So let's take it from there. And in Genesis chapter 18 and verse 32, Abraham said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And God said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then in verse 33, let me read from the King James now. And the Lord went his way. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. And that word kind of jumped out at me. And that word communing, the Bible says the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham. It didn't say he was just talking with Abraham. Other translations say finished, finished speaking with Abraham and so on and so forth. But this particular one, it says he was communing with Abraham. And that kind of gives you the kind of picture of how it was between God and Abraham. God was communing with him. God was communicating with him. God was interacting intimately with him. God, they were speaking as friends. They were talking, almost as contemporaries. They were having this chat, this discussion. They were having fellowship. When you talk about communing, it kind of reminds you of communion as well, doesn't it? And so Abraham was communing with God, and it just got me thinking, what is my own state of communing with God? What is your state of communing with God? How do you commune with, would you call it communing? Am I that person that goes into a place of prayer, bam bam, I've prayed 1 hour, 2 hours, I've prayed, I'm done, bang, I'm out of there. I've prayed 10 minutes, I'm out of there. Whatever. But this issue of communing gives you this impression of, just interaction, just having a good time together, fellowshipping with one another, and I want to kind of examine this because for me, and maybe for you as well, I would love my state of communion with God to be, in fact, I'd love to be able to call it communion with God. That my interaction with God is a place of real fellowship, intimacy, and all of that. So we're going to take a look at this issue of communion and take a look at what it means and how we can improve our own communion with God. If you want to come along with me on that journey, stay tuned and check out the next few chats that we're going to be having. And I pray that the Lord will help me and help you. Of course, primarily you would help us together to get into that state of, just deeper communion, deeper fellowship with God. God bless you. Have a beautiful, amazing day and a great week.